Welcome, everyone. I'm Martine Daou, Regional Lead for the National Managers Community for Quebec and Nunavut. I'll be hosting this event, and our guests, experts in the field, are Martin Hubert and Leah O'Reilly. I will present them later a bit more in details, but for now, let's go ahead with some logistic details. I would like to begin by acknowledging that I'm located on an unceded indigenous lands. The Ganyongehaga Nation is recognized as the custodians of these lands and waters. Jagjoge, Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. Today, it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples within the Montreal community. As advertised, this session is bilingual. The PowerPoints are mostly bilingual, either an English slide followed by a French one or bilingual itself, but some parts will be in English only. Just switch. We are trying out today a new feature in Teams, so please bear with us. So last winter, I was roaming through the internet trying to find tools that could help managers, and I discovered the Agile Centre of Excellence on GC Connects. I got curious about it, and I wanted to know more, so I got in touch with Martin, and here we are today, presenting you a method that I hope will help you. So let me introduce our experts of the day, and both passionate about Agile, Martin Hubert and Leah O'Reilly. So Martin has a strong leadership and analytical skills, is an experienced and certified Agile coach. Just for the French people, let me just bring back my presentation because the text was there. Okay, put it in French while I'm saying it in English. He's an experienced and certified Agile coach with a demonstrated history of working in the passport and transportation industry. But what matters most to him are the people. For the past 5 years, Martin has developed a new passion, agility. He joined Transport Canada in 2018 and since then has been working within Agile teams and developed the Agile Centre of Excellence to help change Transport Canada's working culture. In February 2023, he joined Fisheries and Oceans to continue his journey in transforming how we work within the Government of Canada. Leah is a senior advisor and Agile coach for Fisheries and Oceans, Agile Centre of Excellence. Leah was introduced to the Agile approach through the fundamentals training and fell in love with the principles. Agile aligned with what she already knew about change management and with her client-centric approach. Her mission is to help teams and individuals to apply agility to their work in a government context. Leah now works to develop the Agile Centre of Excellence own training offerings to support the Agile mindset across the department and the government. As an Agile coach, Leah supports teams and individuals in the doing and being of Agile. So I turn it over to you, Martin and Leah.
Thank you so much, Martine, for this great presentation. Merci de cette introduction. Je vais partager mon écran utilisant PowerPoint Live. So as we mentioned, we're exploring with you guys today. So I'll present using PowerPoint Live. So hopefully this works as we did this morning. And yeah, we'll talk to you about the agenda.
There we go.
Process. Oh, okay,
Perfect.
good. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you want to go to the agenda, I'll let everyone know what you can expect for the next hour or so.
Yes.
First, we're going to tell you a little bit more about ourselves and the work we're doing with the Agile Centre of Excellence here at the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. We're also going to give you a high-level overview of Agile, including the Agile values and principles, which I know you're going to come to love. We'll talk about the benefits and challenges that come with an Agile transformation, and we'll also deep dive into the Agile mindset specifically for leaders and how you can start to become a more Agile manager. At the end, as was mentioned, we will have time for questions and answers where you can ask questions and share your reflections on what has been shared with you today. We look forward to that.
Merci, Léa. Alors, on va faire de notre possible pour être bilingue, sachant très bien que si on parle trop vite en français, on peut perdre la majorité des gens. Alors, please bear with us. We're going to flip from French to English. It's a simultaneous translation, traduction simultanée. That's why we're trying this tool where you can actually translate in the language of your choice from the drop down. Alors, merci. Qui sommes-nous? Alors, nous sommes le Centre d'Agile d'Excellence, alors Agile Centre of Excellence, who was launched in June 2020 at Transport Canada. So Leah, myself, and Rob Robinson, our director, worked 5 years together at Transport Canada, exploring, and actually we built our first team back in 2018, and we learned so much. So I said the Scrum teams, the first Scrum teams were built in 2018 at Transport Canada. And then because we were going externally actually to seek training, when coming back at work in a government environment, we soon realized that some key elements were missing from our complex environment. Alors, on s'est rendu compte qu'en prenant la formation à l'externe d'autres écoles en Agile, plus particulièrement Scrum, on se rendait compte quand on venait pour appliquer ça dans notre fabuleux monde et avec sa complexité au sein du gouvernement qu'on avait de la difficulté. So what we did is we actually built our own educational content. So thus the by GC, for GC, with GC. Alors, on a vraiment voulu bâtir notre propre matériel avec la saveur du gouvernement. Alors, de là, le par GC, pour GC, avec GC. So it's a collaborative effort. What we want to do is first, because we were at Transport Canada, our focus were Transport Canada's employee, right? But why not break the silos and work as one GC? So that was the vision. So we implemented the Agile COE officially in June 2020. We moved the FO in 2023. But the good part is that, you know, we've maintained our great network of 20 plus departments. So, and it speaks on its own when we see the many people attending today's sessions. We've come a long way and still have more to come, but it's good to see the common challenges that we have, learn from one another. So why limit ourselves to only one department, right? So that's the idea behind the scene. Alors, vous pouvez voir qu'on a formé plus de 1000 employés. We've trained more than 1,000 employees since then. Of course, there's some duplication. Someone may take the Agile 101 while other will take Scrum Foundation, Kanban. We have many different training sessions. And we have coached more than 40 teams. Alors, on a coaché aussi plus de 40 équipes. Mais notre bread and butter, where we are bringing the most value, and we've seen it over and over again, is the aftercare services. So everything after the training. So the training is one thing, but how do as I was mentioning, how do we implement that? And the way we work is we're meeting the people where they are. Instead of you must go from A, B, C, D to E, F, you know, maybe somebody has already gone a good way and is actually starting in another section of the journey, the Agile journey, right? So we want to feel your pain, see where you're stuck, help you guys. And so, yeah, this is in a nutshell who we are. Alors, qu'est-ce que l'agilité? Anyways, when we were starting, people were thinking that Agile equals Scrum, but we know that Scrum is only one methodology. So I should say, actually, Agile is not a methodology like Scrum, Kanban, extreme programming, the Rational Unified Process, RUP, as you see under the umbrella. Alors, l'agilité n'est pas une méthodologie comme Scrum, Kanban. Ces méthodologies font partie du terme générique agile, and agile is actually a mindset. So this is what we really want to embrace today, the agile as a mindset, a new way of thinking through the values and principles which were expressed in the Agile Manifesto more than 20 years ago. So this is not new. We're not reinventing the wheel, but it's time for the government to, change, shift, and learn from the past. Alors, on va passer à travers les valeurs et principes. And by the way, we will only briefly go through the values and principles. We have a full, and Leah will repeat this in a second, but we have a full session just on the values and principles. So today, we will go quickly over it. We want to make sure that you guys get what is it that we're trying to convey here today, which is actually changing the way we think, the way we work, right? So leveraging the power of teams to meet our highest priority. How? By satisfying the customers through early and continuous delivery of valuable solutions. Alors, ce qu'on veut faire, c'est vraiment mettre le focus sur le client. Souvent, on se dit, oui, on le fait, mais quand on se pose vraiment la question, soi-même en tant que leader, et qu'on va poser la même question à nos employés, on va se rendre compte que juste à savoir qui est notre client principal, who is actually the true primary customer, you'll see that you'll find many different answers when you ask people within your team and around. So, and the early and continuous delivery is key to gather the feedback of, the ones that you're building the product or services. So I'll flip it to, and just before I forget, you've seen it here. This is not only for software, although the Agile Manifesto was back then for software. Everything that we do in Agile is applicable to IT and non-IT, so any domain, all right? Even in your private life, just to have a birthday party, for example, we can give you some insight outside this session. Alors, ce qui est important de savoir, c'est que ça ne s'adresse pas seulement qu'au domaine de IT, technologie de l'information, excusez, malgré le fait que quand le manifeste Agile a été fait en 2001, oui, c'était bel et bien pour axer sur les softwares. Alors, ça s'applique à toutes les sources. Leah.
Thank you. So I have provided a link to an external site. You'll see it was developed in 2001 and hasn't really been updated since then, but it's directly to the Agile Manifesto. And as Martin mentioned, the Agile Manifesto is really the foundation for any Agile journey. And so we're sharing it with you so that you can look into it more in depth at your own time. Obviously, we only have so much time to go through these values and principles together. So as I mentioned, the manifesto focuses on 4 values and 12 principles. And what I really love about the values and principles is that instead of being a rigid list of rules that we have to follow in order to be agile, that would have really gone out of date quite quickly with how quickly things change in the world and in the way that we work. So these values and principles really help to guide individuals and teams to instill more agility into their work and to develop more of an agile mindset. So as mentioned, this, even though it is the manifesto for agile software development, it since has been used in many other areas, including communications, HR, marketing, education, healthcare, on and on and on. And certainly we see it being applied within our government context as well. So the manifesto introduces the Agile values by saying that the creators of the manifesto were looking to uncover better ways of delivering products and services. And this language is really key because notice that it didn't say that they had uncovered the best practices. Instead, this language really helps us to see that Agile is a continuous process. We're constantly looking to uncover better ways of delivering products and services. And the creators were doing that, first of all, by experimenting and doing this work themselves, but also in helping and supporting others in delivering amazing work. And the Agile community is truly generous. The website that I'm sending to you to look at with the manifesto is free. There's so many resources available out there, and this community is really, really open. So through this work, the creators of the manifesto came to value certain things over others. And we can see this on the right. They came to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working solutions over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. The manifesto then makes it really clear that Agile is not about throwing away the things on the right. These things are really important and do provide value, but when we're facing any decision or any situation, we always want to make sure that we are valuing the items on the left more. So I think we've gone away from the slide, Martin, sorry.
Yeah, someone is controlling.
Okay, that's strange. A little, one more over for me, 2. Okay, so as leaders, we can start to use these values as a guide for ourselves, and we can ask ourselves, am I more focused on processes and tools, or can I shift left to focus more on individuals and how they're interacting with one another and with the processes and tools we have in place? We can also ask, how much am I insisting on comprehensive documentation? And is there an opportunity to provide maybe just enough documentation to allow the team to focus more on providing valuable and usable solutions to our customers? Have we lost our slides?
It seems like it.
Yes, it's not there anymore.
Yeah, I'm going to share it again.
Okay.
We're agile. We're rolling with it.
Yeah,
All good.
that's it. It's taking time. Still working on it. Uh-oh, difficulty loading your presentation.
There we go. It's coming.
Okay, here we were.
Perfect. All right, so I've highlighted those first two. When it comes to contracts, of course, within government, we have lots of contracts with vendors, contracts with individuals. But really, Agile is asking us if we're, actively collaborating with our customer in order to make sure that they're really satisfied, that we're able to gather their feedback. We're not just tied to the contracts that have been put in place. And of course, finally, we know that we need plans. Plans are very important, and planning is a very big part of Agile processes. But we don't want those plans to be so rigid that we're not able to respond to changes when they inevitably come our way. So again, Agile is all about balance. We're not throwing away the things on the right, but when we're facing any sort of decision, we always want to make sure we're leaning to the left. And it's naturally the way that we all want to work. So the manifesto didn't stop at the 4 values. They also provided 12 principles to help guide us in the way we want to work. And I'll provide those links in the chat as well. So at a high level, the principles highlight a number of different areas that we can focus in on to increase our Agile mindset. Some of these include making sure our customer is truly satisfied and gathering their feedback frequently. We also want to do what we can to keep our teams really motivated and to encourage them to collaborate efficiently and effectively, to enable them to self-organize and to look for opportunities to continually improve on the way that they're working. The principles also encourage us to focus on developing simple, well-designed products and services. So I've included the links to the principles and to the Agile Manifesto if you're interested in reviewing these principles on your own, but you're not on your own. We also offer an Agile Foundations training that actually does a deep dive into each one of these 4 values and 12 principles and helps you to see how you can start applying them to your work. So if you would like more information, please reach out to us.
Thank you, Leah. Merci beaucoup. So, why Agile, why now? Alors, pourquoi l'agilité, pourquoi tout de suite? Comme je mentionnais au privé, ça fait longtemps que les gens adoptent la mentalité agile et certaines méthodologies. Plusieurs méthodologies, je devrais dire. Alors, c'est entre autres pour faciliter la vitesse du changement. Alors, on sait maintenant que les changements se passent très rapidement. On l'a vécu aussi avec le COVID, comment on a dû se revirer rapidement. So we've seen how fast we needed to adapt to the change during COVID. So that's one benefit, sorry. Deliver in weeks versus months and years. So, ce qu'on veut faire, c'est vraiment livrer des petits morceaux fonctionnels, so little pieces of functional solutions, but in matters of weeks instead of months and years. Alors, au lieu d'attendre des mois et des années, on veut recevoir aussi le feedback le plus rapidement possible. So this will allow us to gather feedback quicker. Of course, time and money wasted on work not needed. So, en allant chercher le feedback rapidement, on va pouvoir éliminer le travail inutile en attendant des réponses qui ne viennent pas parce qu'on n'a pas donné les opportunités de recevoir le feedback. And again, we want to gather feedback from our end users, the people that will actually use your product and services. Continuous improvement through iterative delivery. Alors, on veut faire l'amélioration continue grâce à la prestation itérative. Et and finally, work. Say finally, this is only a small list of many, as you can imagine. Work on the right thing at the right time. So, travailler sur la bonne chose au bon moment. Comment? Mais c'est en ayant des touch points réguliers. On est capable de s'adapter puis s'assurer qu'on travaille sur ce qui est prioritaire et ce qui va apporter le plus de valeur à nos clients. Alors, how we would know we're working on the right thing at the right time is by regularly having these discussions with the right people, including business, IT, together to make sure that we're working on what matters most and bring the most value.
So why do we, as government organizations, want to consider agility, and what are the benefits that it brings to our teams and organizations? We often reference a report, it's an external report, the yearly Business Agility Report. And this year they asked close to 300 organizations to assess their agile transformation initiatives and to identify the benefits as well as the challenges that they faced. So while the focus of the report is not on the government sector, their findings really do align with what we have found in our work of Agile coaching across a number of different departments. So the results from this year's report provide a really solid case for considering agility. The standout theme of the latest report is how agility leads to better ways of working, particularly around increased collaboration. And the results make it really clear that an agile approach not only improves the way that we work, but also how we feel about work. So you can see that it leads to a really increased employee satisfaction and retention, but also it increases customer satisfaction. So we really want to make sure that our customer is happy with what we're delivering, but also that we can retain our amazing resources and that our employees are really happy at work as well. And Agile can really help in these areas. So as leaders and managers, we do want to consider an agile way of working so that we can harness all of these amazing benefits within our own organization. But of course, there's always a flip side to that. So like any transformation initiative, agile adoption does not come without its challenges. And the Business Agility Report does highlight some of these. It's really interesting to note that the top 2 challenges actually have not changed over the last 5 years. They are resistance to change and leadership style or leadership capabilities. And here we see it's titled leadership and management capabilities. So this is really, really interesting because it makes it clear that as managers and leaders, we have a huge influence in the success of adopting Agile within our organizations. As coaches, we often see that there's a huge interest in a move to Agile, but these two things, specifically resistance to change or even change fatigue, so many changes going on within the organization, or a non-agile leadership approach can actually squash the change before it succeeds. So if you are considering agility within your organization, it's really important to kind of get an idea of how much change is actually going on and what am I bringing to this change as a leader, as far as what my leadership style or my leadership and management capabilities will add to it or potentially take away from it. So as I said, we want to make sure that we're fully adopting the agile mindset as leaders and managers, and we're going to discuss how you can do that over the next couple of slides.
Merci, Ria. Et en passant, j'espère que la traduction pour les slides se fait automatiquement selon vos désirs en utilisant l'option en bas de l'écran. I hope the translation works for some of you that may want to see the slides in French. That's why not everything is translated. You should have the capability with PowerPoint Live. Alors, vous devriez avoir accès avec le PowerPoint Live. On l'essaie, donc on va en tirer des bonnes leçons. So yes, Leah, as you were mentioning, the agile mindset. So to have an agile mindset, and sorry for reading what's right there, but means living the value through action. So walk the talk. Instead of focusing on different way to work, focus on different way to think about the work. So as leader, ask yourself, how can I make sure that my team, that I actually can embrace the different perspective, diversity of each individual. Alors, en tant que leader, posez-vous la question, comment est-ce que je suis capable de créer un environnement qui va permettre justement de recevoir également, si tu veux, les différentes perspectives de chacun, sans que personne se sente offusqué ou les introvertis, par exemple, qui vont plus se fermer et attendre que tout le monde ait parlé. Il y a plusieurs outils qui nous permettent ça de nos jours. Alors, on vous encourage fortement à utiliser ces outils-là. There's many tools that would encourage you or to put in practice such practice as the Miro, for example, where you can anonymously run retros. And anyways, there's different mechanism out there. Look at the failure as learning opportunities. Knowledge sharing is done willingly and freely. Alors, l'importance de pouvoir partager librement. Très important d'avoir aussi une bonne collaboration. To have a continuous improvement, sustainable, a workplace sustainable and fun. That's a toughie. How can we think about, the pace that we have right now and reduce it to a sustainable pace? I've seen rarely people saying, yeah, I'm good and I can run with that pace for years, Rares sont les équipes qui peuvent nous démontrer qu'ils peuvent soutenir le pace, le flow, si on veut, de leur day-to-day pour longtemps. Alors, comment est-ce qu'on peut revoir, est-ce qu'on travaille sur la bonne chose, justement? Alors, c'est là qu'on se rend compte que c'est vraiment de se remettre en question, de se concentrer sur la culture. Alors, so many of the soft skills will be put in play when you wanted to endorse an agile mindset. Alors, je ne passerai pas, je n'ai pas besoin de lire ce que vous êtes capable de lire, mais en gros, c'est ça, c'est cultiver un environnement qui va être transparent, respectueux, safe et qui imprègne la confiance. So, what is an agile leader mindset? So it's a person with a growth mindset who empowers team and organizations to observe, experiment, and innovate by adopting a servant leadership framework. Alors là, on parle de vraiment se mettre au service des autres, de donner le pouvoir à nos équipes, alors de prendre certaines décisions. We understand that your team may not be able to take all the decisions, but which one could and should they take on their own to learn from their mistake, right? Give them the liberty to experiment, to grow, and to fail. So a belief that everyone, so in order to have a growth mindset, is to believe that everyone can grow, develop, and evolve. So thus, you must trust them and give them this environment. Empowerment is achieved through letting go your control. So this is tough. We are much in a command and control environment, and we don't want to lose this, right, to a certain point. So this is where, you need to question yourself, how can I let go of some of the control? And again, trust is key. An agile leader believes that the team brings more value than any individual contributors. So how can I put my team again in a position where we can build on that synergy, right? As opposed of a group of individuals, we want to be thinking about a team that can work and build a synergy. So this will bring much, much more value than any individual value put together. Observation, experimentation, innovation, and flexibility are all characteristics of agile leadership. The key is to have an idea of what outcome the team is seeking. So, encore là, on parle d'outcome, on parle de la valeur ajoutée et non des output. Yes, we will focus on output, but when you think about the document, what value is it really trying to bring? And challenging yourself in the governance, heavy governance that we have in play. Is it really bringing the value? We've run a great exercise. I say we, but it's mostly Rob and back then another of our coach. They went through a very intense, actually a few working sessions to build a value framework, value flow. Sorry, going through the governance, all the different endorsement that each document would need to go through, and the waste of time that we're giving away instead of focusing on the product that needs to be delivered was a mind-blowing. So then again, focusing on the value and not the outcome. Agile Leader subscribes to a servant leadership framework according to which a leader's role is to serve. So how can I be of service? What barriers can I remove from the team? How can I help the team do their best work? So shifting from manager to leader.
So what are the behaviors that we expect from Agile leaders? First of all, Agile really encourages reflection and retrospection so that we can see where we might want to adapt in order to continually improve. So as managers and leaders, or prospective managers and leaders, we may want to start to do a bit of a self-assessment based on what we've just reviewed. We can ask ourselves questions like, how comfortable am I with accepting some uncertainty and some risk? How open am I to changes when they inevitably come my way? Do I see them as a problem to overcome, or do I truly see them as an opportunity? How much am I willing to enable my teams to make decisions for themselves, really seeing them as the experts in delivering the work? And even if I am willing to enable them, how much are my interventions or maybe my leadership style either impeding or promoting this self-organization within my teams? Am I open to the input of others, or do I think that I know best? Agile encourages servant leadership, and managers and leaders really do play a key role in providing the environment and supports that the team needs in order to succeed in this new way of thinking and working. So instead of the traditional role of directing the team, Agile leaders move more into coaching and mentoring the teams, clearing impediments out of their way and empowering them. So an honest evaluation will really help to identify opportunities where we can infuse more agility, not only into what we're doing in our work, but even how we're thinking about it. So we encourage you to take that time to think about how you're showing up.
Thank you, Leah. Alors, on voulait pas vous laisser partir les mains vides. We wanted to give you guys something to take away and that you can actually use right after this meeting with yourself and team. So we encourage you to, and there's many different templates, questions that you can seek on the web. We're actually right now building our own, a leadership, agile for leaders boot camp. So more to come on that front, but we at least wanted to give you some of the great things that are out there, where you can actually assess yourself and your team as if you see it as a agility, maturity level. Alors, ça, c'est un exemple parmi tant d'autres, mais vous allez voir que en passant à travers les questions, ça reflète très bien les valeurs, les principes, les 12 principes de tantôt. So, going through these questions, you'll see how it reflects the 12 or some of the 12 Agile principles. So, does my team embrace change easily? Team continuously reflects on its performance and takes action to improve. Team members are comfortable bringing up difficult topics and challenges. Again, the importance of having a safe place to do so, especially in front of the other colleagues, right? L'importance d'avoir un environnement sécure qui permet justement que les membres soient assez confortables pour amener des sujets difficiles sans se sentir jugés. Team works as a sustainable pace, again, super important. Always expect, the unexpected. We'll know we're going to have some ad hoc requests in, so why not think about not allocating our resources to 100% right off the bat, right? Alors, sachant qu'il va y avoir des demandes inévitablement qui vont venir à tout moment, au lieu de s'allouer 100% de nos efforts, on devrait peut-être se laisser un peu de marge de manœuvre là. Team has a well-defined process for resolving conflicts. Anyways, these are just some of the questions, but it will give you a great idea where you are in regards to the Agile principles. And we actually pulled another assessment from the organizational agility score. And again, you'll see we're talking about doing Agile versus being Agile. So this is where, as you mature, as you put in place these practices, these principles, and gain experience, you'll evolve, and then you'll see the benefits for sure. Alors, les bénéfices seront inévitables. On les a vus déjà à Transport Canada. On commence à peine à les voir au sein de notre nouveau ministère Pêche et Océan, parce qu'on vient tout juste d'arriver, donc on commence à voir les ripple effects, mais ça va prendre son temps, surtout au niveau de l'organisation. Mais l'important, c'est d'avoir le upper management support. You need upper management support. We've seen that the workers, the developers, Scrum Masters, product owners, they want this. They eat it day in, day out. Some of them are really keen to change, and they see the value. They understand where we see a gap, and this is where it's so important that we're having that discussion today, and hopefully we'll follow. Is the discrepancy between, we've seen the upper management, if you will, and the workers. So how can we, again, embrace change and minimize the resistance to change? Okay.
So we've hopefully made it clear that Agile is really about building a mindset. But after building this solid Agile foundation and this Agile mindset based on the values and principles, many teams do want to take it a step further and actually want to investigate an Agile framework to support this new way of working. So the two most popular that we see within our government context are Scrum and Kanban. So for the next few minutes, I'll just briefly review some of the similarities and differences between the two frameworks to give you an idea. Perhaps it's something that you're considering within your own teams or within your organizations. So first, the similarities. Both Scrum and Kanban are frameworks that are based on the Agile values and principles, of course. They focus on feedback loops that gather customer feedback often and early. They both work in shorter iterations or sprints, and that really creates focus around the work. And they both seek to streamline their processes to reduce waste and also to increase the delivery of value. Both of these frameworks also build on the principle of self-organization and autonomy for the team. I'm happy to see that in the chat that people are already referencing those amazing things we want to consider. So instead of pushing the work to the team, Scrum and Kanban both use a pull technique, and that actually allows the team to choose their work based on a number of different factors, based on priorities, based on capacity, based on a number of different things. Both frameworks also use metrics to monitor and measure productivity, although these metrics generally differ from one to the other. Some of the key differences are, first of all, around roles and responsibilities. Scrum assigns very specific roles within the team, including the role of product owner, Scrum Master, and the delivery team. And those roles have very specific responsibilities assigned to them. In Kanban, the roles are not defined. So any team, no matter what roles they have in place, could look at that framework and start with where they are and the roles that they have in place. Another difference is around work assignment and prioritization. So for Kanban, pulling work in is really only done once other work has been completed, and it's based really on the team's capacity. This really allows for a more flexible approach, and this is especially so for teams whose priorities change often. They need that flexibility to be able to bring work in as needed and potentially change their priorities at any given time. Scrum is different in that everything is kind of committed and locked in for a short period of time. So tasks and work are actually pulled in batches, and the team only focuses on that work for that specific period of time. So within Scrum, changes should only happen after the sprint is complete. You may wonder, what's the best application for both of these? So for Kanban, we find that it's best for projects or work environments with widely varying priorities. For example, you'll see some real life examples, but we often see Kanban used for teams involved in maintenance work, for example, where the requests and priorities may change from day to day or week to week, and they need that flexibility built in. Scrum is usually best for teams with more stable priorities where the goal is really clear, but the team does still need that flexibility to make decisions around how they're actually going to get the work done. And normally we see this with teams developing new features within an application, but we've also seen it work really well in the area of communications, human resources, and other disciplines. Now I'll hand it over to Martin to just share briefly some real life examples of these in action.
Excellent, merci beaucoup. Oui, en fait, un exemple qui nous a permis de mixer les deux sans même le savoir, c'est quand on était à Transport Canada. Alors, as I was alluding to earlier, when we started back in 2018, we built our first three, I was going to say Ninja team. They were called Ninja team, but they were Scrum teams. And actually, they got self-created. Based on the skills matrix that the team members actually put on the board. They self-organized and they actually named themselves. And there you go. Within a few hours, we had our first Scrum team. Then what happened is that these developers were developing working on the development of a new application while supporting others, the legacy ones, right? So it was very difficult. So I was alluding to a bit earlier is that we were thinking about, okay, first of all, an employee never works 7.5 hours a day. There's a lot of things that prevents us to do to be productive 7.5 hours a day, and we're only human, right? So we need break, we need this and that. So out of that, let's say 5 hours, all right, we would allow, so actually the rule of thumb was 5 hours of work and maybe an hour or so doing maintenance, but it wasn't working well smoothly. So we learned from that, and we decided to create a fourth team who would do solely the maintenance of the 53 apps, all right, from Marine and Security back in Transport Canada. So now we had something that was working well. So while the 3 Scrum teams were all about developing the new applications, the maintenance team was actually using a Kanban approach where they would actually, pull based on prioritized list of work. And again, someone had to prioritize amongst the 53 potential product owners, right? So that was very enlightening, and it revealed the good aspect of mixing the two together. Scrum teams doing their thing, Kanban team doing maintenance. And then you had the management team. So we were there and we actually used the Kanban approach. And as we do right now for the Agile COE, so the non-IT example right there that you see on the screen is actually, I wanted to bring some insight on how we work actually. So we work on a 4-week period, all right, where at the beginning of every month, we are having our planning session. So what is the work that we want to do? Let's prioritize it with our product owner, of course. And then we would know who's going to be doing what roughly. And we would pull, the tickets from that board, that visual aid that tells us, all right, we have too much on our plate, or we have a good pace, we're good to go. It actually shows, obvious where you see these bottlenecks, where someone is stuck. So, and of course, even the Scrum teams are using Azure DevOps as their visual board, right? So all of that makes sense, and it helped us tremendously. On my front, just having the dailies was a game changer, because we were always in sync. We were helping one another. When you know on a daily basis what your coworkers are working on, and the product owner is also part of the picture, so he understands, he can tell us, you should be working on this and that, maybe not. So, having that discussion is so crucial. Then you're building that synergy that we were referring to at the beginning. Alors, ce que je suis en train de dire, c'est que quand on était à Transport Canada, on a créé nos 3 équipes Scrum, et ensuite on s'est rendu compte qu'une 4e équipe serait peut-être bénéfice pour juste faire la maintenance des applications. Et cette équipe-là, on a décidé, on a figuré qu'en utilisant une approche Kanban, ça les aiderait. Alors, ce qu'ils font, c'est qu'ils prennent les items les plus importants qui ont été priorisés à travers les 50 potentiels différents product owners. C'est sûr que les product owners ont plusieurs applications, là, on s'entend, là, mais ça peut se faire. Je veux que vous vous visualisez dans cet environnement-là où tu as un large inventaire de product owners, une personne priorise, et en bout de ligne, même l'équipe était autosuffisante, pouvait elle-même gérer les priorités, parce qu'on avait mis en place un agreement pour justement que l'équipe puisse prioriser leur propre travail. So at the end of the day, the team was actually self-sufficient and could prioritize based on the metrics that we had based on business values. Alors ça, c'est un bon exemple qui jume les deux frameworks qui sont les plus populaires qu'on voit au sein du gouvernement. All right, we're going to go to the Q&As. Martine,
yes,
oui.
J'ai noté ici une question. Somebody asked, how can I provide clarity of vision and strategy for my teams and trust them to figure out the best way to achieve the results?
And that was from our director within the Agile Centre of Excellence. I think he was elaborating on questions that we want to ask ourselves as leaders. So Rob has highlighted an amazing point there, that as leaders, that is our realm, right? The clarity of vision and strategy, and then really trusting the teams to be able to figure out how it is that they're going to achieve those results. So setting that vision, and then kind of creating that environment for the teams to get that is Agile leadership at its core.
And if I may add to it, we're so used to working in silo that even as leader, if I project myself, or not project myself, but if I go back 5 years back, I would have tried to do this on my own. Well, why don't we do it collaboratively? If it's with the leadership, your colleagues at the leadership sphere, what is the overall vision, so I can then figure my own vision, the vision of my team or teams, and then with the team, let's brainstorm and see what everybody thinks, what's on their mind. And then as leader, yes, sometimes we need to take the decisions on behalf of the team, but at least The people will feel that they are part of this, the solution. They had their moment to share everything that is on their mind, or close to, as long as we stay professional and respectful. And they will feel le sentiment d'appartenance. How do you say that?
Sense of belonging.
Belonging, thank you so much. Which is key, right? You want them to own the product, they feel responsible and so forth. Yeah.
Si un gestionnaire voudrait aller plus loin là, dans son apprentissage, est-ce qu'il faut puis qui veut développer le mindset agile, do you necessarily have to use Scrum and Kanban or something like that, or it's just like a way of doing also?
There's many, as we saw in the very first slide. I mean, and there's another slide that I could show you. I think that there's tens of agile frameworks that you can use. So no, Scrum and Kanban are only two of many. So and even us, as I mentioned, the Agile COE, we're using an hybrid way. It's Scrumban, some may call it, right? But make it your own. Just start somewhere. Try.
Yeah, it could be just a whiteboard and people putting. Okay, doesn't have to be something that we have to purchase or.
Oh no, absolutely not. When we started, we used Trello board, which is free, right? We tried it, and then we realized. So then you have your cards. It's a visual aid. Again, just by, and even I go back even further than that. Rob will laugh because he's on the call. When we were physically, remember when we were working five days a week at work, we actually, in order for a certain director to open their eyes and see the amount of work that was going on, we did a Kanban board on a wall. So, and that was not yours, Rob, that was another director, you'll remember. And we took, tape. So we had basically at the minimum, the basic of a Kanban, there's 3 columns, right? You have your queue, if you will, all right, the to do, doing, done, all right? And we put the Post-it on everything that is happening now. And then we figure, how can you even think of finishing anything with that pace, knowing that your inbox is constantly full and fuller by the day, right? So that gives you the arguments now to learn how to say no, right? And what we want to learn from that is stop starting, start finishing. Sorry, I got that upside down, but yeah. Alors, ce qu'on veut faire, ce qu'on a fait, c'est sur un mur, physiquement, dans le temps qu'on travaillait 5 jours semaine au bureau, il y a un gestionnaire qui avait de la misère à dire non, qui ne savait pas comment dire non à son boss. Et très comprenable. Des fois, c'est vraiment intimidant. Alors, au plus basic de sa forme, le Kanban, il y a 3 colonnes. À faire, on fait, en progrès et terminé. Et on a mis des post-it sur tout ce qui se passait. Et la petite équipe de, je pense qu'il était 5 employés, en avait tellement que là, c'était évident. Il n'y a pas personne qui pouvait nier le fait que c'était insoutenable. Alors, oui, on peut utiliser différents mécanismes. Ce que je disais, c'est que Trello est une des premières boards visuelles digitales qu'on a utilisées, qui est gratuit en passant.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll just add to that when we first started out with our coaching and especially with our training, we were doing Agile Foundations and Scrum in an hour and a half. And it was really more focused on here's the things you can do and here's the framework. And since then, we've really tailored it to focusing exclusively on the values and principles to build that foundation. Because what we were finding is that many teams were jumping right into a framework without fully understanding the values and principles that support that. And then over time, they started to think, well, this doesn't really work because they didn't understand why it was that they were having a daily, getting together on a daily basis, or why the retrospective, and those things started to fall off. So when we start now with teams, we want to make sure that they have the mindset first. It's about how we think about our work before we even look at what it is that we're doing. And so I added in the chat some of the things that we may want to consider as far as what we want to do after we've built that mindset is actually putting everything on the board and visualizing our work, understanding the flow of our work and where there might be challenges, being really open about our work with one another and within the team, and also having a retrospective. Even if you don't do anything after this session, I encourage you to go back with your teams and actually just spend an hour to an hour and a half and have a really open conversation about how it is that you've been working together up until this point and what it might be that you want to do differently just to make things easier or better or have more fun together, whatever it might be. Let the team kind of brainstorm around what it is that you want to do better. And just by doing that, you're infusing some agility into your work right away.
Exactement, comme Rob a rajouté, c'est un mindset en premier tout. Donc, il y a 21 façons de commencer sans avoir à même penser à Kanban. On vous a lancé des termes, là, we talk about Kanban and Scrum. I mean, it's just trying something. Think about, just the work that you're doing. At what frequency are you showing to the right stakeholders what you guys are doing? Don't wait too long, so it's easier and cheaper or less costly, I should say, to pivot and adapt in that way, as opposed to developing even a policy 6 months, in your cube. So gather feedback. Try to figure how can I gather feedback sooner than later. That's another way of just being agile.
We only have 1 minute left, so I think you have another slide with a few courses offerings.
Yes.
And
Merci,
after
merci.
that, we can answer the last question in the chat. But if people want to leave, at least they get this.
Absolument, merci
they know
beaucoup.
where to start.
Yeah, I'm
so
going
we
to
have,
add our website as well.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
thank you so
Martin,
much.
sorry.
So, all right, quickly, we've done training session that we have. It's at no cost right now because we are offering first and foremost to the DFO people. But then if there's additional participants, that's the good part of being virtual now. It doesn't add to the cost, so we can certainly offer you some of these. We have some videos, a series of giving, I think it's 10 videos on Azure DevOps. We also did these training sessions in partnership with the public school. We've been working together for the last 2 years. We also have cohorts specifically for our Scrum Masters. So these are 8 sessions of in-depth learning, workshops, coaching, mentoring, and same for product owners. And again, free are the 4 committees of practice which are all happening on a monthly basis. Alors, c'est à tous les mois, c'est gratuit, le Agile COP for anybody. The newbies, the expert, we want to learn from others, especially, from all the different departments, the struggle that you guys are having. We have a committee of practice for Scrum Masters, so they can freely exchange, learn from one another. Same thing for product owner. And GC Agility, this one is for the leadership. So different subject, and yes.
So thank you for this, and I'll just do the final thank yous, and maybe there was one other question. I just want to say to everyone before they leave, yes, you will get the presentation. We'll be sending also the Agile Manifesto with a feedback form to get your feedback on this and links to the different courses. So before we have found this, somebody was talking about finance, and
I love Sonia's question because it's something that we run into too. Actually, people sort of write agility off because they think it's just for IT. But I can just share one very quick experience that we had at TC. We were actually coaching an HR team. They were in HR classification, and you wouldn't think necessarily that, one of the frameworks might apply to that, but we were actually able to come in again with the values and principles and to kind of coach them along. And one of the huge learnings that they took from that exploration with us was that they were actually focusing on the wrong primary customer. So they were working thinking that their primary customer was managers because that's who they were talking to every day and that's who they seemed to be serving more directly. But when they went through sort of just a workshop on who their primary customer is, which was such a foundational piece of one of the Agile principles, they realized actually our customer is the employees. At the end of the day, we need to make sure that the services we're offering are equitable and fair to the employees. It's not about the managers. And all of a sudden, that change in the way they thought about the work had huge impacts on what they did. They prioritized differently. It totally changed their flow of work. So that's just one example of no matter where you're working, you can apply these principles and these values to your work, and it can really, really benefit from you. But it's a fight that we have all the time too. It's not just IT. There's so many other areas where you can apply this.
Great.
Hopefully that answered your question.
I think where the other ones are just like comments. So thank you very much for this, Leah and Martin, and to the participants who were there. I hope this helps you and you want to know more and go take some classes and join the community of practices. So
Yeah, we'd love
thank
to have
you, everyone.
beaucoup.
Have a nice rest
Merci
of
pour
day.
cette belle opportunité. Vraiment
Thank you.
apprécié.
Bye bye.
All right. Bye tout le monde.
Bye.